Welcome everybody. Thank you for being with me this morning. This is Rick Geiler, SilverSide Insurance here in Scottsdale, Arizona. Sunny and warm today. I have with me on the line here Luke Lucas, the regional manager from Sagicor Life. We also have in the background Michael Fromm, the product manager who's helped design some of this stuff. And Michael probably isn't going to get involved in the presentation much. He might be available in the background to help out if we have a couple of questions at the end. We're going to try to move pretty quickly here. I have a slide deck that's showing the 10, 15, 20 level term and no lapse guaranteed UL. What we're going to focus on a little bit, and what most of you folks are logged on today to take a look at, is the process, the simplified issue process, both with the underwriting, and then we're going to get into the application, which you can do two ways: an old school hard copy and with the electronic e-app, which is what Luke is going to focus on a little bit extra here for us in a minute. But I'm going to hit some high points first, make sure we're all on the same page here. You guys have probably seen this slide deck a little bit before. Here's a little bit of the history on Sagicor. Not as much of a household name as some of the outfits we work with from time to time. But as you can see, Sagicor's been around for over 170 years. It's one of the oldest insurance companies in the world. Here's a few bullet points, and I don't want to belabor them because we got a lot of stuff to cover. Today we're going to talk about 44 states. Actually, I think we just added New Hampshire. So most of the products we're going to be talking about today are available in 45 states. I think we're still working on Washington, and there's one or two other hiccups. But any questions you have on that, we can handle on a case-by-case basis. Rated A-, excellent by AM Best. I have an AM Best sheet I'm going to show you real quick. We can get that out to you if you need it. And Sagicor is Sage, Wise Judgment. Wise Financial Thinking for Life is the source of that name and their moniker. And let me move on a bit. We're going to focus here on the 10, 15, 20-year term. There's some parameters on that. You're going to see all this on the quick view sheet that we send out on a PDF. Most of you folks probably have that in front of you. If you don't, we can get it to you. And I'm going to get into a few more of the PDFs we have available for product information. But basically, we're talking about on the simplified issue, ages 18 to 65 on 10 or 15, 20-year term, up to $399,000. Now, this is, when we say it's non-med, we don't mean it's guaranteed issue. This isn't late night infomercial. Everybody fills out an application and gets the same rate whether they're on the morphine drip or not. There's rate classes, very, very competitive rates. I'm going to show you a little bit on that in a minute here too. But let me go ahead and finish with some of the high points. Past age 65 and past 400,000, 399, 400 and up to age 75, you're looking at fully underwritten, which there's more details in the underwriting guide. The rates on that are very competitive as well, and it has the same features. You will, in most cases, need to have some kind of a paramed or an APS or more underwriting than the simplified issue to 65, which we're kind of focusing on here today. It has some nice features. It does have an accelerated benefit. The details of that are in the product guide, and rather than get into the strict details, the point is there's an acceleration for confinement up to 50% of the face. There's the optional riders, bullet points there. We can kind of move on here. There's a convertible program where you can convert the term insurance to permanent insurance. Again, the details of that are in the product guide. So rather than burn a lot of time on it, I'll just hit the fact that there is a conversion program, and it can be very effective. And then on the no lapse UL, there's some there is actually a chronic illness acceleration, which is a little bit richer benefit than that confinement benefit on the term, and it has the same optional riders as well. Again, in the product guide, we can review the details on that with you. What we're going to have Luke get into here in a little bit is the electronic application. Maybe not keystroke for keystroke, but in a nutshell, how you can fill this out where you're not necessarily sitting in front of your client. You may be on the phone, they may be 2 states away. You can still fill it out electronically. The turnaround time is going to be substantially reduced on the electronic application. Our experience so far has been it takes folks 1 or 2 tries to really get comfortable with it. There's a couple of nuances in how the fields get filled out, but once you get that process down, you're going to love it, because you're going to know at the end of the e-app that you have all the data where it needs to be, and it goes immediately to the home office and they begin processing it, and you're looking at very, very short 24, 48-hour turnaround time. One thing we want to look at right now, there is this underwriting guide, and hopefully that has come up for you folks. There, I think that should do it. The underwriting guide, this is a PDF. We can send this out to you, and this is going to it's going to tell you a little bit about the process, and then it's going to give you some parameters. Here's the process. How do you call in to do the phone interview? What basically is going to be involved with that, the phone interview. While you're doing it, they're going to go over the MIB information, pharmaceutical database, all the information out in the cloud that's going to enable them to make an underwriting decision. That's going to take place during the phone interview with you there on the phone with your client. So that'll enable them to give you a binding decision at the end of the phone interview. So this underwriting guide is going to be a valuable resource for you to keep you posted. And I'm trying to pan forward. Here you go. Here's some more, and I'm hoping, there we go, that popped up. It's going to give you some details what's going to qualify for a particular rate class. Blood pressure, driving history, family history, whatever. Is that going to push somebody into either rated or standard, any kind of downgrade from a preferred, which we're hoping to get on everybody, but you don't know. Also, there's a build chart in here. Very generous build chart, actually. You're going to find you can fit most people in at some level, perhaps the rated level, even with heavier builds. Anyway, I won't belabor the underwriting guide, but I want everybody to know it's available, and we'll put that in their hands. And we have other resources for you here. This is a term kit. A lot of you guys have probably seen this. This has this actually, when you get this from us and you say, well, I didn't get the brochure, I didn't get the rate sheet, you actually, if you click on these, it will link you to a portal where you can actually download the PDF. So this is going to give you quick view product details, the product guide, underwriting guide, everything kind of in a nutshell for you. And I'm going to show you, well, here's the AM Best report I mentioned earlier that we can put in your hands if you need to take a harder look at how Sagicor's rating and a little bit more about the company. We have plenty of pieces on that for you. Now one more piece, and then I'm going to turn it over to Luke here. I ran a quote this morning. You guys have been hearing from us that this term, and this is a term quote. I ran off of CompuLife this morning. Now anybody in the insurance business probably has access to this, whether they know it or not. And this is, I just off the cuff, I had an age 45 female preferred non-smoker, just to see what I would get. 150,000 20-year level term. And as you can see, you're looking AIG or American General, North American, and then Sagicor. If you notice, Sagicor here is simplified issue, and you're talking $24.93 a month. American General is $23.93 a month. So for $1, your client can avoid any kind of exam. There's no paramed, no fluids, no medical underwriting. It doesn't necessarily mean they're guaranteed to qualify, but you can bypass most of that process for a dollar difference in premium. So again, we're talking about very competitive rates here on a simplified underwriting chassis. And this was just one quote I pulled off the cuff. You can run rate comparisons. I don't know if Sagicor is always within $1 of the lead, but they're always very, very competitive with the simplified issue process. So I have a few more pieces here. We may save that for some of the question and answer. But what I'm going to do now is I'm going to turn it over to Luke Lucas, the Sagicor regional marketer, and he is going to get into a little bit about how the electronic app works, how you go from the illustration to the actual application. Luke, are you available there?
I'm here. Can you hear me?
I can hear you. Let me turn control of this over to you here.
Okay, I think I've got what I need. Can you see what I'm doing now?
I can.
Okay. I want to thanks Rick for having me on the webinar today, and hello to everybody out there. What I want to do is just go over the e-app, how simple it is to get to, how you go about getting to the application. Once you're appointed with Sagicor, you'll get a SLIC number, and then you're able to register on our website. The website is Sagicor Life USA.com. It's going to bring up the picture of the children. You're going to go over here to producer. That's going to get you your login screen. Now, for all intents and purposes, today I'm going to tell you how that you can use our test site in order to utilize or get to the e-app and be able to play with it. You can even submit it, and it won't mess up anything. You go to in the username, you're going to type in test producer, all one word, and then the password is Sagicor, all lowercase, and that'll get you into our test site so that you can go in, play with the illustration software, go through the whole process and see how it works. What you do is you go to the illustration software. This is how you get in to run an illustration, and in order to get to the e-app, you have to run an illustration on your client. You want to run it from the website. When you're doing an e-app, there's two things you have to have. You have to have internet access, and then the client needs to have an email address so that if you're not working with them face-to-face, you can do it over the phone, and that way you can send them an email with the application for them to review and do an e-signature. So in order to get to the e-app, you go to new illustration. We're working with the no lapse. You're going to whatever state you're working with, and you click on Platinum no lapse. You're going to put in their name, their age. It's going to ask you for their birth date. It won't let you go any farther if you don't have their birth date, so you need to have that for sure. And then just go over to the plan, whatever face amount that they want. You want to make sure in your premium mode that you have how they're going to pay, whether it's annual or monthly. You need to have that correct, because if you don't have it in there, you have to start all over when you get to the e-app and go back and change your monthly mode or your payment mode, however. Now we've got everything in there the way we want it. If I click on application and try to go to the application, it's going to give me a red X, and it's telling me that I have to save the illustration before it's going to let me go to the e-app. So I'm going to save it. I'm going to name it, and then I'm going to save it, and then the red X will go away. Now you can click on the application, and it's going to bring up the e-app for you. And it's basically, the e-app is just a electronic application, as if you were doing it handwriting it. It's going to give you your instruction sheet. Up here under number 1, it tells you how far you've gotten along, how much is left to put into the application. There's 2 ways of navigating through the application. You can use the arrows, the forward or back arrows, or you can go to this open, and it will show you what the red shows you there's stuff that needs to be filled out, and so you can go either way. Another thing I want to show you is this little red comment bubble tells you that there's something on this page that has to be filled out in order for the application to be completed. And each time you fill out, your percentage will go up, and once you've hit 100%, then you're going to be able to move on to the signature page. And so what I've done is I've already filled out an application, so you don't have to see me go through line by line typing stuff in. So let's say you've already done an e-app, you've saved it, but you haven't been able to work with your client yet. So you know the application's in there, you want to know how to find it. So you go to your website, you go to the illustration software, and what you're going to go to is My Cases, and click on My Cases. That's going to bring up all of the illustrations that you've saved on your website, on your desktop, laptop. But since we've already done the application, we want to go over here and click Application, because that's what we're looking for, is the application that we did. Now I did one. As you can see, Mr. Keller has shown up, even though we didn't fill it out. We could go ahead and pull that up and fill it out at this time if we want to. But I did one on Mr. Geiler. And I went through, filled out everything. As you can see, my form entry is 100%. You can see this continuous flashing that gives you an idea that you've got it all filled out and you're ready to continue. So you just click on Continue. This is going to highlight the signature page. So you have 2 options. You can either use e-signature or you decline e-signature. If you decline e-signature, that basically means you're going to print out the application, have it signed by the client, and then you're going to either mail or fax the application into Sagicor. If you're going to do e-signature, even if the client's not with you, you still want to click on e-signature, and then it's going to give you an option once you do that. So we're going to have them e-sign it. You're going to go to your insured, and this is where, if the client's in your office with you, you're going to click Sign Now. If they're not in there, then you're going to send email request. And then what that will do is that will formulate because it asks you what his email address is on the application. It's going to pull up that email, and then send that email over to your client for them to review the application and e-sign the app. But we're going to pretend the client's in our office, and we're going to e-sign it now. So you're going to use their driver's license number as their ID number, their name, and then their birth date. Verify it, and then this is going to, what they're going to see on their end is, this is how they're going to review the application. It's already 100% filled out. They could go page by page if they want. Otherwise, they can just click on each tab, and each tab is going to have I have reviewed and agree with the terms expressed with this document. All they have to do is click the box, and that means they're e-signing it. Each page that they have to sign. So we'll just go through that. Okay, now we're going to sign it. It's going to ask us again what the client's name is. And then I consent. And basically they've signed the application. It's going to send you an email. If you've sent it as an email to them, it'll send an email back to the agent letting them know that your client has signed the application and that it's ready to be submitted once you've signed the app also. So you're going to do the same thing. You're going to e-sign the application as the agent. Sign it. And now you can go continue on to submit the application. Once it's submitted, you'll be able to check on it. By going to other actions, and this will tell you, going to history, it'll tell you what you've done with that application. It shows that the Sagicor received it, and at this time it's also going to give you the policy number. At this time, what you want to do is you want to call MRS and do the phone interview. And the way that procedure is done is the agent will call MRS. MRS is going to ask them 4 or 5 questions, and then you're going to call the client and do a 3-way call with the client on the phone. MRS is going to take over. They're going to do all the medical questions. They're going to do some confirmation, letting them know that it is a voice signature that they are capturing and that they're comfortable with that. And then at the end of that interview, which takes about 15 minutes total, they're going to ask the client to hang up, and then they're going to tell you what risk class your client qualified for, and then you're basically done from then. And it's like I said, it's about a 15-minute process, and you know what the results are at the end of that interview.
Okay, Luke, can I clarify a couple things here?
Sure.
You showed us how to e-sign if the client is in your office. If
Correct.
They're not in your office, you send that email request.
Correct.
And the client is going to see something very similar to what you just showed us if they're reviewing it on their own email, correct?
Right, right. It'll be exactly as if they were signing in the office. It'll have those tabs, or like I said, it'll have the application that they can go page by page, and then at the end of that, it'll have that box that says I agree to the terms, and they just click the box. That's how they're going to e-sign the application.
Mm-hmm. So the jurisdiction that's going to be involved is going to be the state where the client is e-signing, correct?
Correct.
So if you email it to and they're at their house in Kansas, Kansas will be the state of jurisdiction. If they're in your office in Arizona, Arizona will be the jurisdiction.
Correct.
So for non-resident licensing and those types of things, we need to make sure where the client is signing that app you're going to need your non-resident licensing, all your contracting in order to make that go through smoothly.
Correct.
And Here's another snag we've hit a few times. As it says right here in the middle of the screen, the agent initiates the phone interview, correct? By calling that number to MRS.
Right.
Mm-hmm. And the agent should clarify that their client is there on standby. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and get the phone interview started here. I'm going to call MRS, and then we'll be three-weighing you in here in a minute. And that would be after the 7 knockout questions on this e-application. Which
correct.
Can you pan over to those, Luke?
Yeah, I can. These are the 7 medical, well, they're really not medical questions, but these are the 7 knockout questions that the client has to honestly answer no to in order to proceed to the for the phone interview.
Right, and so section 7 is the knockout questions. 7 questions. People have gotten confused on that. I thought you said there was 7. I see 5 here. Well, obviously, question 5 is in 3 parts, so that gets us to 7 total. And those are pretty broad-based things. Those are major health issues that we're talking about there. So then in the phone interview, they get into part 2 type of questions. And can you pan to that real quick here, Luke?
See if I can find that real quick. Yeah, here's all.
This is one other thing that can trip you up a little bit. It says here, do not complete, and it means do not complete. The point of having this in your hands is to give you an idea for the content of the phone interview, right, Luke?
Right, because this is the first place that an agent sees anything about height and weight, and one of the things I tell most agents is the first thing you want to check is their height and weight to see whether or not they're, you may have a guy that's, what looks healthy and you think should qualify for preferred, but he's 6 foot, 300 pounds. Well, the height and weight keeps him from being a preferred client. So you got to be very careful as to when you're quoting, whether you're quoting preferred or standard, make sure the height and weight falls in there first of all, regardless of what his health looks like.
Right, and that's on the build chart in the underwriting guide I was showing earlier.
Right.
So that'll be critical to make sure you're not promising somebody standard or hoping for preferred when their build is going to push them to standard.
Right.
Okay, yeah, that's pretty simple. The tools will be in everybody's hands. That underwriting guide is a very, very valuable resource. But part 2 here is not going to be filled out. It's just for informational purposes right now. And there was a couple other hiccups that we hit. There's the question in there about a replacement. Will you check yes or no? This is a replacement. And then later on, I want you to clarify why you're replacing, and that's a required red flagged field. If you're not replacing, just put in the red flag field. It's not a replacement.
Yeah, it's in section 6, just above the medical questions, whether or not the application is being replaced. And I think. Okay, yeah. They changed it. In the past, it was if they have life insurance in force, then it's still requested that you put that information in there. But they've changed it to where if you answer yes, but it's not being replaced, then you're not having to fill that out.
Okay, so if you're not replacing a policy, you don't have to include it in here?
Correct.
Okay. Okay, I'm getting some questions here about, it looks like we're moving pretty fast for some folks. Yeah, we do have a tutorial guide that walks you through this, and this webinar today is going to be recorded. I see some folks asking if they can go back through this or can they forward it to somebody. Yeah, we'll have a recording link for this, and we do have a slide deck PDF that we can get you that'll walk you through this. Let's see, can we ask questions ahead of time so we can be certain they will qualify? Yeah, you do need to do some field underwriting. You do need to check on what kind of meds your client may be on and their general feel for their build and if they've had any major health issues. And you do need to run that across the underwriting guide so you're not spending time hoping somebody will get a preferred rating when they're standard or rated or maybe not even coverable at all. We've had a couple things come up on tobacco. Luke, do you know what standard they use for a tobacco user? If I smoke a cigar on New Year's every year, am I a tobacco user, or what's the rule of thumb they're going by on that?
Well, if it's going through our underwriter, if it's a fully underwritten app, our underwriter would not consider them a tobacco user. Through MRS on the Simplified issue, I would have to get that clarified because I don't know how they're going to look at that, whether they have the ability to, distinguish, how many cigarettes or how many cigars a person smokes in a year, whether they're able to make a decision on whether it's a tobacco or a non-tobacco. So I'd have to find that out and get that back to you.
Yeah, with most carriers, you tend to see very occasional, an occasional cigar or whatever is generally a non-tobacco. What exactly counts as occasional is probably a bit of a gray area. But you need to get that clarified. If your client is going to tell the phone interview that they are a tobacco user, that's going to drastically affect the rate. So you do need to get that clarified. If you're trying to get somebody approved, preferred, or even standard, and they tell you at the last minute, oh yeah, I do smoke occasionally, or I do chew tobacco occasionally, that's going to drastically affect the rate. So do the field underwriting on that. Now find out how they're going to answer that question in the phone interview so you know what you're quoting them is going to be doable. We've also had some other underwriting things come up, and I can talk to folks one-on-one about this a little bit, but there's avocation things such as foreign travel, hazardous hobbies. Are you a hang glider? Are you a scuba diver? Those kind of things come up in the phone interview, and if your client answers yes that they do some of those things, and a person you think should get a preferred rate turns out being offered standard, we may need to go back in and get an avocation questionnaire filled out so they can have the underwriters take a look at maybe offering them that preferred rate. Anyway, there's several nuances to this process. The e-application, once you do one or two, it's very simple and you're going to love it. I also have a hard copy app that you can use, just an old school paper app. The thing about that is you need to be with your client, or you need to have that hand filled out. So that is something you can still get the simplified underwriting, and you can still get the rates I was showing without using the electronic app. But as time goes on, you're really going to want to use this electronic app. So do you have anything else to add here, Luke? I have some questions about state availability and some other details. We'll put those PDFs I was showing earlier in everybody's hands. Most folks probably already have it. But any of those, I'm panning through some more questions here, and most of them are procedural detail stuff. We'd be happy to help you one-on-one with those. Do you have anything else to add on the e-app today, Luke?
No. I mean, like Rick says, if you can get in there with that test producer ID that I gave you and fiddle with it a little bit, get more comfortable with it, it's pretty easy. When you first pull it up, it does look a little bit cumbersome, but it's like you're filling out the application, by hand, and you're just, but it highlights in red everything that's required for you to fill out in order for the app to come into Sagicor in good order. So it's a very good tool. Even if you're wanting to do it paper app, you can still pull it up as an e-app, fill it out that way, and then print it off and then fax or mail the app in. And it eliminates a lot of people not being able to read certain people's writing and everything. So.
Okay. Yeah, here I'm showing, here's a simplified issue application. This is if you want to go ahead and use a hard copy app, and you still want the simplified issue underwriting process. And this is something, this is the kind of thing everybody's seen plenty of times. Is just an old school life insurance app. I have the underwriting guide. What else did I want to show folks? This is something we were looking at. Here's rate cards. We have these available for both the UL and the all three series, the 10, 15, 20-year term apps. And what else we had? This is something we were taking a look at as far as a price comparison. I have this sheet I can shoot out to folks. I don't want to belabor it. We're kind of running along here, but if you're looking for, say, a $25,000 face amount for final expense style, they don't call it a final expense, but comparing it to some of these final expense carriers, these are generally speaking cash value whole life policies. But as you can see, to get that $25,000 death benefit, Sagicor, even if you're getting rated, which means the lowest underwriting class, you still price-wise, you're very competitive all the way up to the mid-70s here. Anyway, I have this sheet available I can get everybody. And with that, I think we'll go ahead and wrap it up here. Thank you for being with me, Luke. I know you're always available for questions and review. We do have a slide deck that will show you this, the e-app process Luke was giving us. We'll also be recording this. We'll have it available on probably a YouTube link here within a day or so. So thanks for being with us, everybody. Thank you so much, Luke, for going through all this. And I'll wrap it up with that. And please, any questions I didn't get to, I know I've been fumbling through these a little bit. There's several of them. Most of them seem to be procedural and state availability type questions. We can get all that in your hands. So thanks for being with us today, everybody, and we'll see you next time.